Welcome to the Cloud Pod, where the forecast is always cloudy. We talk weekly about all things AWS, Google, and Azure. We are your hosts,
Justin,
Jonathan,
and Peter.
Episode 62, recorded on March 4th, 2020. The Cloud Pod automatically redacted. Good evening, Jonathan. How's it going?
It is great, Justin. I'm thoroughly enjoying, tongue-in-cheek, working on PowerShell again for this week.
Yeah, is that coming to a close soon, I hope?
I hope so. And towards the end of the show, we'll have the bullshit that I learned this week section, all about PowerShell.
Oh, excellent. Sounds great. For those of you who have not followed at Ryron01, you are now out of luck because he is here to guest host because Peter is off in Mexico. So hi, Ryan. How's it going?
Pretty well. Thanks for having me.
How's that Twitter follower handle going?
Oh, I am beside myself with the amount of followers that I now have, and I still have no content to post on Twitter to entertain them, which is the most frustrating part.
The pressure. What will you say first? What will you say?
I'm caving.
Yeah.
It's hilarious. But hopefully I will get there and be entertaining.
Yeah, so you gained a healthy 12 additional followers, so you're welcome.
Yeah, I believe that's exactly doubled.
Exactly doubled. So, I mean, we did exactly what we said we would do, which is great.
Yeah.
I'm a little disappointed in the other, thousands of listeners that download our show every month who didn't follow you, but that's okay.
I'm not. That was the wise choice. We should be more concerned about the 12 that did.
They checked out the picture. All those other people, they checked out the picture and they saw the picture and they're like, I'm not going to go near this guy.
Yeah.
I will say, though, that the sticker is well worth it.
Yes, I finally have the envelopes for the stickers and the surprise gift for those who signed up, and I will be sending them in the mail by this weekend for sure. And I have to send them to far off places like Israel and Australia and many places around the world. So, the global reach is here, but it now means I have to pay more in postage. So that was unplanned for.
That's pretty cool, though.
Okay.
It's cool to hear that you have so many different places have listeners.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. I like to watch the download charts. It shows all the countries we have downloads from, and it's neat. We have a very global audience, and we thank every one of them out there. Well, we did have our second episode of TCP Talks released. Rob Martin, who's the Cloud FinOps practitioner with Cloudability, told us all about the FinOps Foundation and educated us on things about FinOps, how to reduce your costs in the cloud. And that's a great, fantastic interview. That is out there. And then we have another one coming out here the next week or so. Should hopefully be out by the time this episode drops with Ben Kehoe. So do check out TCP Talks number 2 and number 3, which will be out by the time this episode drops, which is great. And then this week, I was actually on a panel at the Aviatrix Altitude Conference. It was an online panel that basically, they talked to us about multi-cloud architecture and networking. Aviatrix, for those of you who don't know, is a cloud networking provider that basically created Transit Gateway before Amazon did, and then Amazon, Sherlocked them at reInvent a couple years ago, and they now pivoted into a multi-cloud networking solution provider. And they actually have a lot of really cool features and tools if you're looking for something in that space. Check it out. Maybe they'll sponsor us in the future. But I was on the panel, and I talked about multi-cloud architecture and networking challenges, and their entire thing is now online, and we have a link to it in the show notes. If you'd like to watch it, it's actually pretty good. They didn't do any PowerPoint. It was all customer talk and Gartner, and it was quite enjoyable. But my panel is at the 51-minute mark. If you don't want to watch the whole thing, it's about 15 to 20 minutes long, and you can enjoy listening to me talk more if you like listening to me now. So there you go.
Come on, get on with it. So it's like a cab basically for people who aren't even customers.
I mean, it's not really a cab because they weren't like asking me for features or what I don't like about their product, but they were definitely lots of good customers, and I met a lot of really fantastic networking engineers who are doing some really cool stuff in the cloud. It was great to talk to them at lunch and during the hallway track. So really exciting stuff. Maybe we'll get some of them on the show on TCP Talks to talk about their architecture a little bit, because some people are doing some really interesting things with networking in the cloud, which is super exciting.
Wait, a hallway track for an online conference?
Well, so
Hang on.
So there's two parts to it. So if you were local to the Bay, you could go to San Jose and you could see the conference in person. And be part of it as a live studio audience. And then they also broadcast it as a live webcast to the world. And so they had they said there's about maybe 200 people in the room, and they had about 750 on the live stream, they said. So, pretty awesome.
Oh, cool.
Hopefully those people are new listeners too, because they saw my bio and that I was a host of the Cloud Pod. Maybe they're tuning in this week. Let's get on to the new news of the week. Gartner's Magic Quadrant has a new quadrant. It is for the Cloud AI Developer Services. These are tools, think like SageMaker or Kendra, CodeGuru, BigQuery, Bigtable, anything in the ML AI tooling space. And so they have released this new Magic Quadrant. Of course, as you might expect, Amazon is the first in the top right corner location, followed closely by Azure and Google. This is not like the public cloud one where Amazon is many miles ahead of the other two. They're all very close to each other with really interesting capabilities and features. They mentioned a couple of things why Amazon was on top of the list. Their wide, broad, and capable AI portfolio with high visibility in the business and consumer sectors. Amazon's offerings caters those who with and without ML skills, with 30 digital training courses available, as well as things like Deep Lens and Deep Racer. And they said some of the things that you should be worried about are, of course, complexity of AWS, limited features in SageMaker when they evaluate it, and of course, the cost of cloud, maybe more than you expect. And then for Azure, who is in the lovely second place, they mentioned that they're one of the few cloud providers that has both a symbolic and sub-symbolic approach to ML AI. They have some of the most flexible deployment models, allowing you to use Azure, VPC, and on-premise, and the largest selection of languages for natural language services. On the cautionary side, they don't have NLG services yet, but they are on the roadmap. Microsoft can be challenging to engage with, and they really dinged them for the fact that they don't work directly with enterprises and that you must go through a partner.
I was really surprised that Google wasn't either first or second place. I mean, they're all pretty close, and so I kind of question the math that goes into actually calculating these things a little bit, but I was surprised that it wasn't Google in second.
Yeah, it's very subjective and also very pay for play, I think, in many ways, although that's they tell you it's not. But it was interesting to me that, the first one of the three cloud providers to get this out in the news was Google, who put this all over their Twitter and all over their news feeds, followed by AWS with the Jeff Barr blog post, and then Azure hasn't even gotten it out in the news cycle yet. So, Azure in the number 2 spot's like, yeah, we'll talk about that eventually.
I mean, I guess they don't have to because Google and AWS have already just publicized the hell out of this thing, and you can see Microsoft's name right there in the top right. So,
yeah, well, and you had to pay for the ability to publish this to your clients. So,
oh, really?
Yeah. So they'll let you post like the picture of the Magic Quadrant and the very high level description of the Magic Quadrant. But if you want to post, if you want to share all the cautionary and all the strengths and weaknesses of all the other players and all that you have to typically pay for a download rate license to that. That's why typically it's behind a form, which I filled out for Amazon since they have the most money to pay. So
that's interesting. I guess if it's anything like the SQL Server benchmarks that were done a couple of weeks ago, Azure will have their own Gartner Magic Quadrant, which shows them on top in just a couple of weeks' time.
Is that what the Forrester Wave is?
I think it is.
Sorry. Here on Google's side, though, you mentioned they're third. They did talk about strength-wise that they have some of the best OCR capabilities and strong text-to-speech, as well as the image recognition is the only one that can be deployed in a VPC or on-premises, as it is a containerized application. And they did mention that AutoML has several smart features, including the ability to identify missing data cardinality and distribution for each feature in a data set. Some of the cautions on this was that it is very specific to the Google Cloud platform other than the vision capabilities, and they have a lower market share and has struggled to execute on sales in this space, which I'm sure TK is mad about.
Yeah.
I'm still desperately trying to Google what symbolic and sub-symbolic approach to machine learning and AI is.
Yeah. I'll let you get back on that. You can let base later in the show on what those are.
Yeah.
But Magic Quadrant's always trying to expand out, and so this is a new one if you're paying them a lot of money for their input and advice. Actually, they had their cloud network expert at the Aviatrix event. He talked a little bit about what he's seeing as trends in that space. So Gartner is definitely doing a lot more things in this space. I do expect to see a network Magic Quadrant, a cloud networking Magic Quadrant come out sometime in the future as well. So expect to see more of these. I don't know if we'll cover all of them, but this is definitely coming this way. On to Amazon features. The now available in Amazon Transcribe automatic redaction of personally identifiable information. Of course, Transcribe is an automated service that converts audio files to text. We have tried to use it here at the Cloud Pod many times with mixed success, mostly because We just haven't had the time to deal with it. But one of the popular use cases apparently is the automatic transcription for customer calls. This is for call centers, telemarketing, debt collectors, etc. In order to build data sets for downstream analytics and natural language processing tasks such as sentiment analysis. Because of PI data that may be in the call, these use cases could be difficult to solve GPDR, data privacy, or PCI compliance issues. And so this week, Amazon Transcribe now supports automatic redaction of PI data, including social security number, credit card, debit card, bank account number, debit credit PIN, name, email address, phone number, and mailing address. They'll be replaced with a PII tag in the transcribe text, and this is available to you right now in any region that PII or the transcribe is available for the low cost of 0.00004 cents per second, or to make it easy, 200 minutes will cost you 48 cents.
Wow, that sounds cheap, but on top of the cost of transcribe, it's still fairly expensive, I guess. I mean, it's cool technology, but surely these companies who are already dealing with PII in their databases and in their other systems have controls in place to regulate access to this type of information. So why is the transcription any more at risk?
I don't know if it's the transcription that's more, it's just it's what the data is going to be used for downstream. So one of the challenges for doing machine learning and stuff is actually tuning those models, and it's typically a very hands-on process. And so because you have to be hands on the data, there's a lot of risk for data loss and data filtration. So it might be just sort of a protection along those lines.
Oh, cool. I know there's a good reason we bring you here. Hey everyone, Jonathan here. I just wanted to take a minute to thank the cloud consulting gurus at Foghorn for helping make the Cloud Pod possible. These folks truly get it. Cloud consulting experts since 2008, they are premier tier partners with AWS, Google Cloud Platform Silver, and Microsoft Azure partners. From multi-cloud to containers to moving full production workloads to the cloud under the tightest compliance, Foghorn's team of full-stack cloud engineers have been there, done that, gotten the t-shirt, and are ready to share their experience with you. If you're in the market for some talent to supplement your team, visit www.fogops.io/thecloudpod. www.fogops.io/thecloudpod. Foghorn, the promise of cloud delivered.
Well, for those of you who are using the AWS Global Accelerator and had the dream of using your own IP addresses, you can now do that. With the BOIP, you can bring your /24 network right to the edge of Amazon's network. This allows you to reuse previously whitelisted IP addresses without making client-facing changes. So for all of you out there who are using some type of IP whitelisting, which is not good security, that is now available to still use your old IP address when you move to the cloud. So that's a plus in some cases. This is also allows you to assign tags to the accelerators, and by adding these tags, you can allocate costs to specific accelerators as well as control access to your accelerator via those tags. So that's a great couple of features there for the Global Accelerator, or as we like to call it here, Anycast.
I do like the tagging. Being able to allocate costs per accelerator by tags is a really neat feature, and that model needs to be for more commonplace, I think, for some of these services.
This actually solves a problem which Google already solved, and I mentioned this to the VPC guys in our EBC at reInvent last year. In that you can now have an Anycast /24, but you can actually route that the traffic entering those IPs to any data center anywhere in the world. So previously, to bring your own IP to a region was limited to a /24 for a whole region, but now with Anycast, you can kind of shoehorn in just using parts of that range for a particular region and parts for a different region in a more fine-grained level than a whole /24 per region. So you could have 16 addresses for Oregon, 16 for Virginia, and then the rest for someplace else. It's kind of useful on many levels.
I was saying if Brian had anything more to add.
Oh yeah, no.
I mean, I definitely think as we get more and more to the edge computing, the need for this is kind of relevant anyways. So for IoT and a lot of different use cases, the ability to have this single set of IP addresses that are globally available that then route to the local regions, it's a pretty powerful feature. I see a lot of use cases for this.
Yeah, I've yet to see a cloud-native application that relies on IP whitelisting, and so I assume that features like this, where you can bring your own IP space to preserve rules that people already have in place, is just all about enabling cloud migration.
You haven't seen a solution that does that? Or a SaaS solution that requires IP whitelisting?
Well, something that was built in the cloud,
Something that was
right?
built for the cloud, yeah.
Oh. Yeah, built
Yeah,
in the
you,
cloud natively, not really.
Yeah.
you do see this a lot for like manufacturing metrics and stuff like that, which I guess is IoT. It's these things that are kind of legacy, maybe non-sophisticated industries as far as like computers and technology and networks go. And so you have IT security experts kind of at manning the gates, and these are the types of rules you see.
I mean, it adds something, but it's so easy to spoof IP addresses. I just don't see it adds a lot of additional security. Amazon is apparently planning to double the size of the sales team as Microsoft and Google threatens them in their growth. This competition has slowed their sales growth over the last couple of quarters. We've talked about that here many times on our earnings call or weekly reports. AWS plans to double the size of its current sales team this year, and the hiring spree announced at the sales kickoff in Chicago in mid-January will go toward hiring salespeople that have deep technical knowledge in areas like cybersecurity, artificial intelligence, and data analytics. The specialists will work in tandem with an existing generalist Amazon sales staff to close large corporate deals, answering tech questions and speeding up the sales process. Amazon has previously leveraged this model, but this is a very much more widespread rollout of that. A potential flaw in this model, though, is that a customer may get confused between dealing with multiple salespeople, and the first major sales makeover AWS has ever undertaken in several years.
So I guess are they more like sales engineers because they're targeted to a specific service?
No, they're typically like so. In our day jobs, we have a salesperson who is a generalist, and she's fantastic. And then we have a salesperson who specializes in ML AI already today. And so he's basically having sales conversations with different people in the organization than the generalist is having. They work together in tandem, but those conversations are sometimes different or have a different need. But they are typically more well versed in the capabilities of the technology they have or covering. But I would not call them to the point of solutions engineer level.
Fair enough. I wonder if this is really more. I know they're talking about as Microsoft looms in the article, but clearly Google are going all in on sales recently. I kind of feel like it's more of a response to that than the Microsoft thing, but I still think they're missing the low hanging fruit of get some salespeople who can work with the people who pay you less than $10,000 a month, because those are people who could grow into the big corporations of the future.
Yeah, it's interesting. In the article, they talked about growth having previously come from building new services as opposed to dramatically increasing the size of the sales team to encourage the adoption. But I agree with you. I think features are one thing, but if everyone's going to Kubernetes and the best Kubernetes platform is still seen as Google, then that's a little bit harder to fight. And so you need those salespeople to maybe go have this discussion at the C-level to really start swaying some of these conversations when they're not being developer led. And one of the big discussions at Chicago apparently in this article was that AWS did not have enough salespeople to cover its customer base, and they also want to increase the diversity of their sales organization as well. So I think we'll probably see a lot of changes in this space, especially for small clients as well as for bigger clients, and we'll see if it works. I mean, I think it has challenges. I've seen Microsoft where they have 1 million salespeople all tied to different products verticals, trying to go into an account that's very confusing. So as long as that generalist AWS salesperson in the bigger accounts has control over all of that, that'll probably be just fine.
I've seen this work very effectively, but it does take a lot of coordination, a lot of acting as a team. But it is nice, I assume, for a sales generalist to be able to basically bring in that specialist if there's a question, and it's a good customer experience when you're on the other side asking questions, and it's okay to call on an expert, right? So
yeah, great. And I think there's a time and a place where a certain type of salesperson makes sense, right? Like we've had experiences where we've had a vendor come in and talk to our security team, right? And then we've had a security company come and talk to the same team about basically the same solution, and just the language used, the way they talk, because they're security specialist salespeople versus non-security specialist people, is pretty dramatic. So I think there is benefit for having people who understand the language and can turn that language into sales speak. There is value to that proposition. It's just, as a generalist, more in my line of work is I don't care about that. I just want you to sell the product to the people who need it and get it out of my way. But there are people who need that higher touch and that higher language communication level. Well, we'll see how the sales revamp goes for AWS here in the next year, and hopefully it gets better. Introducing the new AWS config multi-account, multi-region support for Advanced Query. Last year, of course, they released Advanced Query for single account, which made it easy to query resource configuration properties of your Amazon resources for auditing, compliance, and operational troubleshooting using simple SQL-like queries. Now with this launch, you can use the advanced query with configuration aggregators, enable you to run the same queries across accounts and regions. This provides an easy mechanism to query your entire AWS footprint from a central account and get relevant information. A couple use case examples here. Using the query ability, you can retrieve a list of EC2 instances of a particular size. EBS volumes not attached to EC2 or resources that have encryption disabled across multiple accounts. And aggregators can be provisioned very simply from using the console.
This is really fantastic announcement, just because if you're doing a multi-region strategy and you're trying to go figure out what has changed, across a large swath of, an EC2 fleet or something like that, having to run a separate query across all the different regions you operate in is kind of a nightmare. Especially if you're still sort of in fact-finding mode, like you don't really know what you're looking for yet. You just sort of have an idea and you're trying to structure that query. It can be very complicated. So centralizing this is going to be very useful for a lot of teams when they're trying to track down what changed and audit, providing audit evidence and that kind of thing. So this is fantastic.
It's really funny. I remember maybe a couple of years after I got into using AWS, I saw a plugin, open source plugin for Postgres, which would actually go away and query your Amazon account information, and you could literally describe a table and select things from a table, and on the back end, the database engine would go away and make the queries, make the API calls to AWS, and return the data as rows in the table. And so, pretty much what they've done is just reproduce that functionality, which is now probably 10 years old. So it's about time. Kind of disappointed that they didn't roll a lot more of these features out with organizations.
It's also like pulling these things into a centralized account where you can do multi-region stuff, centrally, is something that they're sort of new to. You see a lot of their services kind of going that way, Control Tower, some of the CloudWatch dashboards now you can query centrally. So it is sort of like I think it's a pivot from their previous strategy of very heavy separation between regions. And I think that they sort of were getting a little bit of competition from Google and Azure, who have a little easier flow when it comes to your regions and your multi-account strategy.
You mean the global VPC I can have globally? One VPC to rule them all?
Yes.
Yeah.
For example.
I think the fact that Control Tower only works with new accounts and that you can't migrate accounts into it probably tells us something about changes that they made around account management on their management layer to support things like these new features.
Well, it was interesting, actually. I was stalking somebody on Twitter, and they started talking about, their migration to Control Tower and how excited they were about this particular feature launch. And I realized that he had basically migrated his organization from an old organization to a new organization with Control Tower. And I was really pushing him, like, well, what was the benefit of that? Like, what did you get out of it that made it worthwhile? He kind of came back and said, well, I got all these things. And I'm like, well, but you had all those things. They were just harder to do for various reasons. So very, very interesting challenge.
We're just bitter because we spent hours or weeks, building these solutions, which are now out of the box of people who yeah, exactly, 3-4 years, yeah. And they're now out of the box of people who didn't adopt the cloud sooner.
It is sort of like it's one of those things that I not fear of missing out, but I really wish I could adopt it, or at least have a path to go forward to adopt it. But it's really difficult if you have an existing deployment, and especially if you have lots of accounts to roll this in without creating two separate processes. Like it's virtually impossible. And the things you get, like being able to launch, an account in a very organized, governed, pre-configured way is really nice, but it just doesn't add a ton of value for on top of the automation I already have. And so there's very little, unless you're brand new to AWS, I just don't see the advantage.
So what does it do for you? I mean, apart from being an account provisioner, what does it bring exactly?
Well, the next headline is AWS Control Tower now supports single-step account provisioning. So may as well go right into that. So it makes account creation into your org very easy and simple. So if you have a multi-account strategy and you're separating out your workloads by business line or application or product team, managing those accounts is a lot simpler. And you can predefine what those accounts look like as far as governance rules. And so you can the automation that ensures that CloudTrail is enabled, the automation that ensures that ELBs have access logging enabled. Some of these things I'm not are controllable and settable via control tower. I think also there is like UI enhancements that allow easier like launching of CloudFormation templates and stack sets across accounts. I think that they sort of built that into control tower. So yeah, largely it's all stuff you can do some other way, but it's just sort of, I think this is feedback that, multi-account strategy was very difficult in Amazon, so this is their answer.
Oh, definitely. It would be so nice to be able to centrally say you cannot launch these types of instances in these accounts, or always configure ELBs to do this, or always have these policies in place, always use TLS 1.3 without giving people the option to not select those things. It would make SOC control, SOC compliance so much easier.
Well, but that's exactly, I think, part of the hang up I have with it is that the stuff it allows you to do only goes so far, right? So anything I can control with an SCP and IAM permission restrictions I can control with Control Tower, but I don't think I can set the approved ELB security, what you might call it, for ELBs, like the policies.
Yeah.
I think that is still something I would have to automate outside of that.
Yeah, I think so. It's still one of my feature requests for CloudFormation is that they add that kind of layer of control between the template you upload and what they actually deploy.
Yeah, I mean, there's other technologies like HashiCorp Sentinel and stuff that's getting closer, but it's still very difficult to do before launch. It's still very much reactive control that you have to have in place to go detect something is not in compliance and go fix it.
One thing I thought was interesting about the Control Tower accounts is that all the accounts provisioned through Control Tower have the same root email address. And up until now, we've been very reliant on different accounts having different email addresses. Mm-hmm. So it's definitely some fundamental changes they've made to the structure of accounts on the back end.
Yeah, and it goes, one of the things, any account that you've provisioned through Control Tower, you can't really make changes to it like you used to, like logging into root to go update contact information, all that stuff. Like none of that is applicable to those created accounts. You have to do that through Control Tower. So I think it is another indication that there's a lot of changes on the back end that they had to make.
NoSQL Workbench for Amazon DynamoDB has lost its beta tag and gained a latest tag, or is now generally available. The NoSQL Workbench is a client-side app available for Windows and Mac OS that we talked about on the show previously. This lets developers build scalable, high-performance data models and simplifies query development and testing. You can build these new data models from scratch or import and modify existing models, and they can visualize this data model based on their application access patterns and export the model in several different formats. There's also several query development features to make sure you build good queries, and also you can use this with a local instance of the downloadable version of DynamoDB and modify with your Workbench. There is no additional cost for this feature, so thank you, AWS.
Awesome. I think the more dev tools like this, the better, because with new technology comes new problems, and it costs a lot of money. DynamoDB can be very expensive, and giving you access to do these things locally and make all the mistakes locally before you start spending money in the cloud is always great.
And DynamoDB queries aren't exactly, the easiest to construct either. Like if you're doing, something maybe that you shouldn't be with, a NoSQL, it's not a relational database, but, like it's something I've definitely struggled with. I'm also sort of a noob when it comes to some of that stuff. So, but yeah, so this would be very handy to just be able to design that and put that into an application.
Yeah, I kind of like it if they built some kind of. There's blog posts, there's various things around DynamoDB, but I think they really should have like an intro to DynamoDB, and this is how you build queries, and this is how you start using our ecosystem, because you're right, it is pretty difficult, and building your first DynamoDB query, even for the tutorial, the CD collection or whatever that tutorial is, mm-hmm. it's very unintuitive.
Yeah, anything short of the matrix plug to the back of the head is going to be a little, like that's what I need for this.
We need the Microsoft Access Northwind database for DynamoDB. Nice. Remember that from like 1995 or something?
I think they still have the Northwind database.
Do they really?
around.
Wow.
Yeah. I think you actually install it with your SQL Server automation you're working on. So.
I'm going to troll you by just doing that now.
Nice. It is interesting how DynamoDB, it's one of the very first databases a lot of engineers try to use in Amazon when they're looking at native one, because it's, back before DocumentDB with MongoDB compatibility, it was really your only NoSQL option, and NoSQL was the big thing, so everyone would go try to do DynamoDB, and then they'd write a terrible query, and it wouldn't perform and have all these problems, and they'd be like, well, DynamoDB doesn't work. I'm like, well, it does, but it's going to take more than this 20 minutes of reading you did to write a query that's actually going to perform the way you think it should. And then it's only gotten worse with things like global indexes and global tables. And so, yeah, I definitely think there's opportunities for more education in the DynamoDB space. Well, moving on to our good friends at Google. So first of all, they had some positive news. They opened their new data center in Salt Lake City. This was previously announced last year, and apparently their engineers like to ski. And so if they're going to go work on a data center, they also want to go skiing. And so that is now available to them. This is the third region in the Western United States for Google, and the 6th nationally and the 22nd globally. And Google highlighted the large number of tech-savvy customers in the Salt Lake City area and its great adoption, a great addition to the Los Angeles and Oregon regions. Services include Compute Engine, GKE, Bigtable, Spanner, BigQuery, and all the normal friends, as well as the Cloud Interconnect services. And Las Vegas will be their next region coming later this year, so we'll let you know when that happens. Which actually is kind of interesting, because that'll be 4 regions on the West Coast when Las Vegas opens, or at least the Westish coast. So I don't know why they feel they need such a concentration on the West Coast and the East Coast like that, but that's what they're doing.
And I can't imagine that like power and cooling in Las Vegas is cheap. And
it's very close to the Hoover Dam. It's actually very cheap.
Is it really?
That is why Vegas is there.
Then never mind. Shows you what I know.
Yeah,
you can actually at reInvent this year. You can actually go take a tour of the Hoover Dam if you want to.
I always think about doing stuff at reInvent, but it's always so freakishly cold. I usually find somewhere that's warm so I can drink.
You know where I won't be I will not be feverishly cold in November.
You will not,
because I'll be in the Caribbean. So enjoying myself as you guys all do the reInvent thing.
Yeah, as we're freezing.
Yeah,
trying to lug our gear from the the expo floor.
I'll be hurting my liver in a whole new way.
My first experience in Vegas was staying there for a couple of nights before going to Grand Canyon to hike the Grand Canyon. And I stayed up all night in the casino drinking free beer while playing video poker, spending way too much money. And then I think I got about half an hour's sleep before we drove. I didn't drive, my wife drove to the top of a trail, the Grand Canyon, and then we walked 14 miles to the bottom of the canyon. That was the most memorable hike I think I've ever had.
Surprised you didn't just tune that out. That's
Oh no, that's a lesson you only learn once.
Well, that's one I don't want to learn that one. Yeah. Well, unfortunately, Google has decided to cancel Google Next. It was coming up here April 6th through the 8th in Moscone Center in San Francisco, but due to the outbreak of coronavirus and the fears around that, they are turning it into an online-only digital conference called Google Cloud Next 20 Digital Connect. If you had previously purchased a ticket to Google Next, you will receive a refund in the next few weeks. And registration for digital conference is now open. I registered before the show. And I got a lovely email saying that I'm confirmed that I'm going to Google Cloud Next 20 Digital Connect. So I don't actually know where I'm going, but that's what the email tells me, and we will see. But I kind of took this time off work to cover it for the Cloud Pod, and I have 2 free days to go somewhere and enjoy watching the live streams from maybe a warm location somewhere. So we should talk about that.
Yeah,
figure out where we're all going to go hang out for a couple days.
The Cloud Pod goes on, a field trip. Yeah.
Exactly, and we can live stream our commentary of TK.
It was just the irony, though. I just wait for something terrible to happen. Like we'd all go together to some cabin someplace to get some time away and watch the keynotes together, and we'd all end up with the flu or something horrendous.
Well, we will have mandatory testing before you enter the cabin, so it's fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's a pretty big loss for Google to not have their big conference. But if you think about who they want to attract to a conference of this type, it's a lot of international travelers, a lot of Asia Pacific travelers, where particularly the virus is quite bad, and so I definitely see why this has resulted in this being canceled. Before recording today, we also saw that the Amazon Sydney Summit has been canceled, and it's still unclear if the San Francisco Amazon Summit will be canceled or not, as well as things like Reignite and all the other conferences that Amazon has planned for April. So keep an eye on the news if you're planning to go to these things. They may be canceled or postponed, and that details will be available to you on those websites when they happen. So Google Cloud Next, unfortunately, not going to happen in person, but we will be able to enjoy 3 days of exciting training online.
Wow, there's nothing quite like sitting in an office chair for 3 days watching YouTube. But I mean, I guess there's obviously a financial loss, but I think the reputational damage which could happen if it's found out that 500 people contracted a horrendous virus at a conference, at a Google conference no less, and a bunch of people died, would be quite damaging for them. So I think they made the right choice.
I think it shows, for me, it's the responsible thing, right? Because it reads as a good thing. They're trying to be responsible citizens. They're willing to take the hit financially. Let's make all this content. They're putting all the content out there, so they're increasing. I don't know if they're increasing their audience, but they're at least making it available for everyone.
Yeah, I suppose the other factor is, I mean, it may be that they simply don't have the staff by the time April comes around to run the conference effectively. If the outbreak is as bad as some people think it might be in the next few weeks, exponential growth, exponential spread of a virus, then perhaps they'll be affected to the point that they couldn't effectively run the conference anyway.
That's a horrible thought.
Yeah,
I'm gonna go wash my hands.
five times a day.
By singing happy birthday to you.
Twice. It's the alphabet song, or happy birthday twice.
There's a fantastic meme out there, which is like alternatives to sing while washing your hands, that I've been slowly running through.
Most large organizations run 6 or even more monitoring tools. Each of them uses a mixture of data collection techniques from technology providers, open source communities, or custom integrations, and maintaining dozens of integrations across these tools can be a significant investment. Blue Medora introduces BindPlane, not another monitoring platform, but the industry's first monitoring integration as a service. BindPlane can gather data from over 150 technology data sources spanning your entire organization. Remove or reduce your reliance on expensive monitoring and SIM solutions by sending log data to Google Stackdriver, New Relic, or Azure Monitor. Check out the extensive list of integrations, all provided at no additional cost. Learn more and sign up for a free trial by visiting bluemedora.com/cloudpod. The link's available in our show notes, and as a bonus for CloudPod listeners, Blue Medora are offering Google Compute Platform credits to help get you started. BindPlane. Seamlessly stream hybrid cloud and on-premise metric and log data.
Well, moving on to our next story. So Google management apparently looked at the cloud ecosystem and said, there's got to be something that we could be doing that Amazon isn't. And I think they found it, and that is they are increasing prices on a cloud service, and that cloud service is GKE. Oh. So starting on June 6, 2020, Google Kubernetes Engine clusters will accrue a management fee of 10 cents per cluster per hour, irrespective of your cluster size or topology. You will still be able to get one zonal cluster per billing account, which will be free. And the GKE management fees do not apply if you're already paying the premium for Anthos GKE clusters. And the SLAs will remain at 99.95% for regional and 99.5% for zonal clusters on the stable release channel. So this is the first cloud provider that I'm aware of that's increased prices directly to a service and not through some other mechanism that doesn't feel like a price increase.
Wow.
But it's what a bargain though. It's free if you're already paying $10,000 a month for Anthos.
Yeah.
Yeah, so nice of them, isn't it?
I mean, for me, this just goes to they're so confident in their market position for Kubernetes that they're going to basically hike the price up on this. Like, that's crazy town for me, because you can run Kubernetes, it's open source, anywhere else you want. And so, it's not as managed, and there's some other advantages, but this is an interesting turn if you're trying to make yourself the number 2 cloud provider in the space.
Well, I wonder if this is their admittance that they're not going to make number 2, but they're going to be the most profitable number 3 provider out there.
Maybe.
If I was AWS and I was spiteful and petty, I would potentially drop the price of EKS clusters by $2. just to bring it, just take that little bit of margin hit just to bring it just underneath the GKE price, just to kind of and say, hey, we just lowered prices below Google. That would be my move, but that's just because I am a mean person.
How much does yours AKS service cost?
I don't have that off the top of my head.
I'm going to Google it right now.
With the power of editing, though, I can Google.
You can. Wow. So I Googled the cost of Azure AKS, the Google, the Azure Managed Kubernetes Service. First result that comes up, a yearly cost of $42,000. That can't be right, surely.
No. So I'm on
going
the
to search
Azure,
Bing.
I'm on the Azure Kubernetes Service pricing page, and the very first item is that Azure Kubernetes Service is a free container service that simplifies the deployment, management, and operations of Kubernetes as a fully managed Kubernetes container orchestrator service. Paying for only the virtual machines and associated storage and networking resources consumed makes AKS the most efficient and cost-effective container service on the market, which now, thanks to Google, is 100% accurate.
Well, this is different, though. I mean, GKE provides a master, right? And so does EKS,
the cluster,
but the AKS doesn't do that. They just give you free access to the API that deploys all the stuff that costs you money. There's a slight difference in what they're offering.
It's slightly different, but if you want Kubernetes clusters, it's the same APIs, same kubectl, all of that.
I guess. Scroll down with the pricing for nodes. Only pay for what you use and your soul.
And then those IP addresses, you need to pay for all those. But yeah, so I definitely an interesting turn of events. I'm kind of surprised that's the move they decided to make right now, trying to build a lot of market share. Funny enough, there was a recent cost comparison done by someone, and they were telling me how much cheaper Google Kubernetes was because the cluster management was free, and you had to pay for an EKS. And now I can say, well, it's $1 cheaper. So I don't have to. There's a lot more costs involved in moving to Google Kubernetes than just that.
Yeah, I really feel like this is going to hurt them a lot.
Well, I mean, Amazon is going to, if Amazon is spiteful and petty, and Azure is as well, they will use this as Google increases your prices or kills your service. They've just given them 2 bullets to fire at Google in a very competitive market. So I don't think it's a good call. I actually wouldn't be surprised this doesn't get walked back by the next time we record, because there's a lot of noise on Twitter, cloud Twitter.
Yeah, well, one of the biggest concerns I hear from financial people when talking about moving to the cloud is, well, what if they raise prices? What if they raise prices? We've been in there for 2 years. What if they double the price of the service? Well, Google just realized the biggest concern that any CFO has got about migrating to the cloud and having no control once you've moved there. So this is a terrible decision.
Oh yeah, and now apparently, if you're talking about Kubernetes with Google solutions engineers, they strongly recommend multiple clusters. They recommend regional clusters, and so now you only get one zonal one for free. And the architecture you've been recommending to all your customers is regional and multiples. That's a big problem because now I'm paying a lot of money for Kubernetes clusters that I didn't have to pay for before. And yeah, I think from a financial perspective, that's a challenge.
Oh, even drug dealers give you the first one for free.
Yeah. All right. Well, moving on to happier news. Jonathan, I don't know what you've done. Azure has listened to you again and decided that they also are going to support RISC processor chips, which was your prediction again.
Yep.
By making a partnership with SkyTap for the new SkyTap on Azure service, which allows you to run IBM Power 9 PCs in the Azure cloud. IBM Power 9 servers on the Azure Data Center directly integrate with the Azure network and enable SkyTap to provide their platform with minimal connectivity latency to Azure native services. And this is available in the East US Azure region and will soon expand to Europe and APAC. So there you go. Another RISC chip in the cloud. 2 for 2.
Yeah, another IBM chip as well.
Well, yeah. IBM's the only who's really making a RISC chip that's not, it's well known. Let's put it that way.
I mean, it's a slight problem because there's still sort of catching up to do around security tools, especially, which are not available for the RISC platforms. And so I think for limited use cases, this is going to be great. For migrations from legacy systems, this is going to be really great. But I don't think we're going to see much adoption of this as the general workhorse for a few more years yet.
Do you think it's a few more years, or is this like a mitigation for migration that it'll actually decline over time?
I don't know. I mean, from the provider's perspective, this is probably cheaper than x86 based chips to run. They're lower power and better performing, cost wise. So I don't know. It's who knows.
Well, you're so good at predictions. I figure I'd make you go out on a limb.
I mean, I don't know that the Power 9 is really a thing that a lot of Microsoft shops are doing. So it is a little bit of an interesting choice by Azure to do this partnership. But yeah, we'll see. It might be a big deal. Well, as Azure likes to do, they summarize all of their billing updates into one lovely monthly update, which saves us from talking about it every week here on the Cloud Pod. So they have their February update, and they've announced several new cost management and billing updates to the Azure platform. The first one is a new Power BI reports for Azure reservations and hybrid benefits. This new dashboard makes it easy to see coverage for your reservations and hybrid workloads. They now have faster access to help and support via their help menu.
Really? It's
really?
F1 for help. It's always been F1 for help. Come on.
Yes. They are seeking feedback from you if you're an Azure customer, and they have a new survey that they'd like you to go to. They have 3 new cost management labs. These labs are sneak peek previews of features coming to the cost analysis capabilities. The first one is 5 built-in views to help you get started understanding and drilling into your costs. The next one is more details in the cost by resource view and explain what not applicable means, which apparently is something you might see in your bill. There are some changes occurring to Autodesk Arnold service meter IDs. I don't know what that is, and if you do, I'm sure you care. And then there's several new e-learning videos, including optimizing your spend with Azure Cost Management, Azure Machine Learning datasets for reducing your storage costs, and plus the new Azure Cost Management plus Billing YouTube channel, and lots of documentation updates. So check those out on the cost management side of Azure.
A lot of me wants to make a joke about that Billing YouTube channel, but then the practical side of me says we should probably go watch that YouTube channel.
There might be some interesting stuff there if you're, most cost FinOps stuff is the same across the clouds. And then just when you get into the mechanisms of how you do it, those are where the differences kind of play out.
Yeah. Stop wasting money. Stop oversizing things that you don't need, and turn things off when you're not using them. It's. I think my dad's been saying the same thing for a long time. Turn off the light, kid. Turn off the light. Stop heating outside. Shut the window. It's like.
Mm-hmm. Same concept. You didn't listen to your dad either, and that's why everyone's cloud bills are out of control.
Yeah, it's times like this, and I wish I'd listened to what my mother said when I was young.
What did she say, Jonathan?
I don't know. I wasn't listening.
Lovely.
But
that's like best Hitchhiker's Guide to Galaxy joke ever.
Nice. Well, the most vexing problem of every system admin in every corporate IT office has maybe been fixed with the most innovative feature released by the Microsoft Office 365 Cloud, printing. The new Universal Print Service is a new service from Azure, now in private preview. It allows printers to be registered with Azure AD so users can print to them via the cloud and cloud services. The Universal Print moves key Windows Server print functionalities to Office 365, so organizations no longer need an on-premises print server and do not need to install printer drivers on devices. Printers will either support the Universal Print natively through partnerships with Canon and others that are in the special release, or via Universal Print connector box, which you then get a troubleshoot as that's technically your new print server, but that's okay. It's still a dream that we can all aspire to.
I gotta laugh so much at this. Google Cloud Print was released 9 years ago, and they just killed it because it wasn't successful. Just a few weeks before, Azure launched the same thing.
Yeah. So it's actually hilarious because in the Register article about this, they actually talk about the Google Print thing, and they said that Google recommended that you here it is. Google has a cloud print service which it is abandoning, having said we recommend that you find an alternative print solution and migrate your print services by the end of 2020. Well, there you go. Azure just filled the gap, so you're welcome.
What a strange world we live in, where it's you have to connect to a cloud service to print things.
Well, I can't wait for the internet's down, and so I can't print as a help desk ticket. Well, I can't open the help desk ticket either because it's on ServiceNow, which is a SaaS service. So I guess I'm just gonna go home.
Yeah,
I mean, I guess there's still a lot of small businesses who've got specific print servers attached to HP laser printers or whatever they've got deployed there. But I mean, there's so much consumer hardware you can buy. Like even Netgear Wi-Fi devices have USB sockets now, and you can plug them into a printer and you can share things natively over a network. So I don't know. Just definitely not innovation.
Well, moving on to the lightning round. So, Ryan, we've made some changes to the lightning round since you last visited, and we've made them much more like Weekend Update. And while we discussed last week that we were not going to do this format anymore because it's a lot more work for us, we have decided that it's actually a fantastic opportunity for guest hosts because we don't have to score it this way. And so you are now going to be enjoying the joy that is the Weekend Update version of the lightning round every time you're on hosting. And the scored version will continue to be when Peter, Jonathan, and I are here, so we can have a score between just Jonathan and I, which we're still tied 2-2 at this moment.
Oh, it is the best of both worlds. I love it.
Yeah, so that's how we. I think we've rationalized this out. That why we like this format. It is a bit difficult for us to do every week, and so we will save it for when we have a guest host. Unless, of course, we require a guest host 10 minutes before the show records. Then I don't know what we're gonna do then, but we'll figure it out. We'll make it work.
The content will just go down in quality.
Yeah, exactly. So I have the first one this week, so I will kick us off, and we will go through this. When we go through these, you will get to your name, and you'll read your joke or not. We'll see how it goes. Amazon Connect announces per second billing, saving customers up to 5% in telephony costs. But for people who talk as fast as I do, it can be closer to 7% savings. And Amazon friend and family rates do apply.
Telephony. Is it telephony or telephony?
Yes, telephony. I don't know. Go with it.
Oh,
Jonathan.
that's fine.
Which one's funnier, I think, is the question.
Telephony.
Telephony sounds
It's obviously funnier.
Right now. Amazon MSK can now stream broker logs to CloudWatch Logs, S3, or Amazon Elasticsearch service. And the Kinesis team said, "But Andy, we already did all these things."
Well, Azure has released virtual network service endpoint policies. Clearly, the Azure contest to find the most non-descriptive name possible is heating up. I suppose it's too much to ask for any relation to what the service does to be included in the name.
Azure Load Balancer now, TCP resets on idle timeout is now available for you. This is in addition to non-idle timeouts, and please God, don't sever my WebSocket timeout.
Amazon Lightsail now supports resource monitoring, alarming, and notifications. Gone are the days of, "Hey boss, I provisioned this new website with Lightsail."
Great, Jonathan. How's it
I
running?
literally have no way to find out, Justin.
Nice. Amazon Connect now makes it easier to customize the caller experience by adding attributes to existing contact flow blocks. Press 1 for English, press 2 for Spanish, press 3 to modify the metadata on your contact flow block.
999. Operator.
Yeah. I would like to speak to a human, please.
Amazon FSx now enables you to create and use file systems in a shared Amazon Virtual Private Cloud, or VPC. Hey, Ryan, I think we could solve our multi-account shared password file problem with this.
Excellent.
You can now automate index management with Amazon Elasticsearch service, which seems like something I thought I got out of the box with Elasticsearch.
You can now build K-nearest neighbor similarity search engine with Amazon Elasticsearch. I'm so glad this will let me find the nearest neighborhood Circle K.
Amazon Neptune has refreshed the console experience to simplify the management of your database. Finally, a console redesign I won't complain about because I can't compare it to the old one.
And for those of you who know the largest secrets out there, the existence of UFOs, Bigfoot, the death of Jeffrey Epstein, you can now store those much larger size secrets in AWS Secrets Manager. And there are even higher request rates for Get Secret Value API, because what's better than a secret? One that you can shout out to the world much faster.
There you go. That is it for the lightning round this week.
Do I still get to win?
No, you don't. I mean, you win in the fact that you made it through the lightning round and didn't mess it up so many times.
I see. So we're all winners
We're all
here.
winners. We all get a
Indeed.
participation prize.
Excellent.
Yeah. Well, I have a mini Justin Does a Thing. It's not completed, so I'm gonna give you my first attempt at upgrading the CloudPod website. So I think we talked on the show 3 or 4 weeks ago that Amazon is going to deprecate Amazon Linux 1. Of course, when I built the container host that runs the CloudPod website and a bunch of other websites that I run, it's on Amazon Linux 1, which means I have to now update Amazon Linux 1 to Amazon Linux 2. And so this began with a very fun evening at the office, drinking. We're waiting for Jonathan's car to be towed, which is a whole different story. But
That'll be on the Jonathan Does a Thing.
Yeah, that'll be on Jonathan Does a Thing. But so basically, while we were there at the office enjoying some tasty beverages, I decided I would, update my code. And so, of course, it's Terraform pre.012. And so I have to upgrade that. And, I have all kinds of issues where it wants to potentially delete all the data for the website. So, we never get past the plan stage. And I said, I will fix this. And so I got basically during that activity, I got us all the way through. I'm not deleting objects I shouldn't delete, but then I was like, I'll do it on Friday night in a maintenance window because, people like to download a show during the day. I shouldn't do it during the day. So it comes to Friday night. I do my Terraform apply, get the same results. Everything's good. Hit run. Applies perfectly, beautifully. And I go to myself, I'm a Terraform god. I've figured this out. I've written Terraform code that has executed on my first apply attempt. I'm very happy with myself. I watch the server die. I watch the new server come up. I watch it register with ECS, and all looks good. I see the containers start up, and I can't get to the websites. And I go, well, that's not good. And so I basically begin several hours of troubleshooting. And I think I've come down to the conclusion that the issue is that I'm using an Nginx proxy called it was Nginx proxy if you're looking for it, but it's made by Jay Wilder. And basically what it does is it monitors the Docker host and then basically automatically configures the Nginx proxy to route the traffic that comes in from the website into the different containers. And so for whatever reason, it can't see what those containers are, which is actually tied to an ECS defect where ECS changed the way that they had modified the output of the Docker file, and he doesn't support that. And so it's a big kerfuffle. And so I end up rolling back to the prior version of the container. So I'm back to an unsupported version of Amazon Linux from 2018, which makes me super unhappy. And now I am rewriting my entire deployment orchestration in Terraform, which I will talk about on a future show. And that has not been as successful yet. But I'm now creating a test environment because that's the right way to do it. I'm like doing it in prod as I did, as doing it in prod is never good. And I will continue back with a part 2, hopefully on Amazon Linux 2 sometime in the future. But it would seem like a very simple, just update the AMI is not the case. So there you go.
I get a lot of email from the Kubernetes fans out there because this is a lot simpler.
Is it though? Like, I mean, they don't.
Once
they don't know
Kubernetes is up, it's simpler.
they don't know my hatred for YAML. So like, I mean, that's their first failure.
That is true.
Because I really don't like YAML. So that's my big Achilles heel of Kubernetes. And then if I was going to go Kubernetes, then I would just move the website to Google, and that's a whole different activity that I don't have time for anytime soon. This image is going to become unsupported in December. For me to learn Kubernetes at the level required to make my website not be a nightmare to support and maintain, it will take longer than December, I think.
Well, I'm going to gently segue from Justin does a thing to Justin made me do a goddamn thing.
And I have a new favorite segment.
So I had some really fun times. Hang on, I'm going to take a drink. Really fun times with PowerShell this week, trying to debug a SSM automation document. So I've really enjoyed getting into SSM and building some automation to do some stuff in a very interesting Rube Goldberg way, but it's been a really good learning experience until I got to this time when I needed to reboot this Windows host partway through document. We're going to rename the machine, reboot it, join the main, reboot it, do some other stuff, reboot it, because this is Windows after all. And the AWS documentation says it's easy. All you got to do is do exit with this particular code, and the SSM agent will automatically reboot the instance for you. Cool, sounds great. Tried it, didn't work. Contact support, not a great deal of help. Finally realized after 2.5 days of kind of screwing about with PowerShell that exit codes aren't very predictable, depending on how you call the script. And of course, I have no control over how SSM calls the script or how anybody else calls the script, so I'm going to be writing for this. If you use exit with a number, it might work, or it might not work. It might return a number, or it might return a Boolean, or it might not return anything at all. And then there's this extra function, which is kind of come from nowhere. Set should exit, which sounds like an amazing thing. Yeah.
It could be my band
Set
name.
should exit.
Yeah.
That'd be an awesome band name.
Yeah.
Anyway, so long, boring story short, the way PowerShell returns error codes or exit codes varies depending on how you actually call PowerShell in the first place, which is very difficult to figure out from within the running script. And so I'm just going to kind of mark this as risky tech debt and assume that SSM will never change the way they call my PowerShell documents and kind of hard code this thing in, but I shall be submitting my ticket to AWS to get the documentation fixed and do a huge public service to anybody else so they don't have to go through the same nonsense as me.
What could possibly go wrong? Sounds like a solid plan to me.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that you didn't know that Windows exit codes are very problematic to begin with is just shows how much you don't deal with Windows. Because I gotta tell you, that's not a PowerShell issue. That's been a problem since batch files.
So I think when we talk about Justin being a mean person full of spite and hatred, I think it's largely because he started on Windows.
It is, yes. and then I found the right way, the light side of the dark. No longer the dark side.
Getting somebody else to do the work for you.
Hey, sometimes that works too. Get into management. That's the second solution.
I'm not so sure about that. I think retirement sounds like the best option for me, but.
Well, thank you again, Ryan, for joining us here on the Cloud Pod. We always like having you here.
Happy to be here. Thank you.
If people still follow you and still message me, I might still send them a sticker. But if all of a sudden, 6 more weeks from now, and everyone's going through their back catalog of Cloud Pod episodes, we're like, oh my god, I missed it, I want it. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe we'll make you judge it when they follow you, if you feel they're worthy of stickers or not.
Oh.
I mean, the problem is going to be I just ordered 500 stickers for the Amazon Summit and for Google Cloud Next and all these things that people want stickers at, and then the events are getting canceled. So hopefully I don't just have 1,000 stickers I can't do anything with.
Well, virtual stickers are a lot cheaper to mail.
That is true. That is true. And we're trying to get our new Lambda Spackle stickers for these events too, and that kind of stuff. So we will hopefully get those soon enough out there in the world.
That's a very passive-aggressive way of telling me to hurry up in making the Lambda Spackle sticker, Justin.
I didn't say you were late. I didn't say that.
I didn't say you were late. I just reminded you in public.
I mean, you'll cut it out of the show. It's fine. All right, Ryan. Where would they like to follow you on Twitter if they would like to follow you and join the 25 Ryan faithful?
I am still at RYRON01 on Twitter. And basically nowhere else. I'm still looking for my first post since we kicked this all off, so I'll have to come up with something exciting and entertaining. And my large following will probably still continue to wait.
Or they'll unfollow you immediately, one of the two.
That would be the smarter choice.
Yeah, as soon as that sticker arrives in the mail, I expect them to just unsubscribe.
I will keep you up to date because that would be hilarious. I would love to report that back. Yes. Like, these smart people.
This is Twitter we're talking about, right? You just have to be a little bit self-righteous. You'll fit right in.
Well, we will see you next week here at the Cloud Pod.
Goodbye, everybody. Thanks, Ryan.
I don't know how to close.
Goodbye is
bye.
Effective.
Faber locked.
You're still recovering from that lightning round.
I know.
It's hard.
It is hard.
But it's awesome. It comes out really well, but it's very difficult on our side.
Yeah.
And poor Jonathan has to edit it. So
yeah.
I demand a raise.
Yeah. Double your salary.
Absolutely.
And that is the Week in Cloud. We would like to thank our sponsor, Foghorn Consulting and Blue Medora. Check out our website, the home of the Cloud Pod, where you can join our newsletter, Slack team, send feedback, or ask questions at thecloudpod.net, or tweet us at #thecloudpod.